Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and I am joined, as always, by our resident expert.
Hello, everyone. Really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, because today we are doing something a bit different. I want you, the listener, to close your eyes for a second.
Assuming you weren't driving, of course.
Right, yeah, please keep your eyes open if you're driving.
Mm-hmm.
But just picture this scene. It is 2026. You are standing in the middle of a pristine, white-walled car dealership.
You know the exact vibe. Polished concrete floors, the smell of espresso and new rubber.
That quiet, expensive hum of commerce. Now imagine the automatic glass doors slide open, and in walks an elderly man.
Okay.
He is wearing a dusty tunic, he's got a long white beard, he's holding a scroll, and he just looks absolutely exhausted.
And presumably the sales staff are frantically calling security right about now.
Oh, absolutely. But this isn't a prank. The man is Archimedes of Syracuse, the greatest mathematician of antiquity.
Right.
And we aren't just setting up some kind of, Greek philosopher walks into a bar joke here.
No, we actually have a stack of research today, specifically a presentation titled Archimede de Syracuse.
And our mission today is to run a serious thought experiment based on that presentation. If this specific genius walked into a dealership today looking for a way to move around, what would he see?
It is such a fascinating premise. Because the easy answer, the obvious one, is that he'd be terrified of the technology.
Right, it's basically magic to him.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But the source material argues the exact opposite. It posits that Archimedes wouldn't just appreciate a modern electric vehicle, he would actually understand the physics of it better than the salesperson trying to sell it to him.
The notes actually suggest he would lose his mind over it.
Yes.
And not because of, the heated seats or the touchscreen navigation.
No, because of the philosophy under the hood.
Right. So today we're exploring this idea that the modern EV is actually the fulfillment of a 2,000-year-old quest. We're talking about the philosophy of efficiency, the physics of leverage, and why Archimedes might just be the spiritual father of the electric powertrain.
It's a deep dive into pure mechanical advantage.
But before we hand in the keys, we should probably ground this a bit. Because my memory of high school physics is basically just the guy in the bathtub screaming Eureka.
Yeah, the eccentric streaker running through the streets.
Is that who we're dealing with here?
Well, that's the meme version, right?
Yeah.
But the man behind the myth was much more formidable. He lived in Syracuse, Sicily, from 287 to 212 BC.
Okay.
And while he was a mathematician, he wasn't just sitting in an ivory tower contemplating the stars. He was actually a defense contractor.
Wait, a defense contractor?
Effectively, yes. Because Syracuse was under siege by the Romans, and Archimedes was the guy designing the war machines to keep them out.
Oh, wow.
He built the Claw of Archimedes, which was this massive crane-like device used to lift enemy ships out of the water and physically capsize them.
That is terrifying.
He also designed mirror systems to focus sunlight and burn Roman sails. So he was an engineer who was totally obsessed with applied force.
Okay, so he wasn't just thinking about theoretical numbers. He was thinking about moving really heavy things.
That is the core of his character. He was obsessed with mechanical advantage. You know his most famous quote, right? Give me a place to stand.
And I will move the world.
Exactly. He meant that literally. He understood that if you have the right lever, the right fulcrum, you can multiply your input force.
You can do the impossible with very little effort.
Yes. And that brings us to his other defining obsession, which is his absolute hatred of waste.
The sources really emphasize this. He despised inefficiency in all its forms.
To him, the universe was written in the language of mathematics. It was supposed to be elegant. So if a machine was noisy or hot or required too much sweat to operate, it wasn't just a bad machine. It was almost an offense against nature.
He wanted maximum output for minimum input.
Pure optimization.
Okay, so we have a guy who wants to move the world with his pinky finger, and he hates waste. Let's teleport him back to that 2026 dealership.
Let's do it.
He walks past the electric cars for a second and looks out the window at a massive gas-guzzling SUV. Or, better yet, a horse-drawn chariot, which is his actual frame of reference. What goes through his head?
He's thinking it's a complete disaster.
A disaster.
Let's look at the horse first. To Archimedes, a horse is a biological nightmare of inefficiency.
I mean, I guess it is.
Think about it. It eats grain even when it's not moving. It produces waste, manure that has to be manually managed. It has moods. It gets tired. It's high-maintenance entropy.
Definitely not mathematically elegant.
Not at all. And now, look at the internal combustion engine. To a physicist like him, a gas engine is just a mechanical horse.
How so?
Think about the sheer violence of it. You are taking liquid fuel, vaporizing it, and exploding it thousands of times a minute.
Right. Controlled explosions.
Exactly. You're using violent explosions to push a piston, to turn a crank, to spin a gear, to eventually turn an axle. The thermodynamic losses in that chain are huge.
Yeah, what are the numbers on that?
A standard gas engine wastes about 70 to 80% of its energy as heat.
Wait, really? So if I put $100 of gas in my tank, only about $20 is actually moving the car down the road.
Precisely. The rest is just making the engine hot.
Wow.
And to Archimedes, heat is just energy that is escaping. It's failure. Noise is failure. Vibration is failure.
So if he stood next to a revving V8 engine, he wouldn't be impressed by the roar.
He'd be horrified. He'd look at it and say, why are you setting fire to valuable fuel just to create so much waste heat?
So he turns away from the gas cars in absolute disgust, and he walks over to the EV section. And the source material actually uses this specific phrase, zero animals.
Zero animals, pure force, multiplied.
I love that.
This is where the concept of the electric motor perfectly aligns with his lever theory. An electric motor is essentially just magnetism. It's silent. It's highly efficient. But the thing that would really grab his attention is the torque.
The instant torque. You always hear that in car reviews when they talk about 0 to 60 times. But you're saying Archimedes sees that different.
Totally differently. He doesn't care about drag racing a sports car. He cares about the immediacy of the lever.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, in a gas car, you press the pedal, the air intake opens, fuel injects, the transmission downshifts, the RPMs build up. There is a lag.
Right, it takes a second to get going.
But in an EV, you press the pedal a few millimeters and the magnetic field reacts instantly.
Ah, it's like his finger on the lever.
Exactly. He moves his foot a tiny fraction of an inch and 2 tons of metal move instantly. That is the ultimate realization of, give me a place to stand. The EV powertrain is the fulcrum he was dreaming of 2,000 years ago.
And what about the silence of the EV?
The presentation notes that he would view the silence as pure mathematics in motion. No chaos, no explosions, just vectors and velocity.
Now, there's one connection in the research that really surprised me.
Yeah.
It draws a direct line between the Archimedes screw, his ancient invention, and modern regenerative braking. Can you explain that? Because as far as I know, one of those moves water, and the other stops a car.
This is honestly the aha moment of the whole deep dive. So let's look at the Archimedes screw. It was a device designed to lift water against gravity. You turn a spiral inside a tube, and the water travels up.
Right, they still use variations of it today.
They do. It was a brilliant way to add potential energy to the water, moving it to a higher reservoir for later use.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
Now think about a car moving down the highway at 70 miles an hour. It has massive kinetic energy. In a normal gas car, when you hit the brakes, what happens?
You clamp the brake pads onto the wheels, it creates friction, and you slow down.
And where does that kinetic energy go?
It turns into heat. The brakes get super hot.
Right. And that heat radiates out into the atmosphere and is gone forever. It's entirely wasted. To Archimedes, that is a tragedy.
So how does regenerative braking fix that?
When you lift your foot off the accelerator in an EV, the electric motor actually reverses its function. It stops being a motor and becomes a generator. It takes the car's forward momentum and converts it back into electricity to store in the battery.
It's recycling the momentum.
It's a closed loop. It is conceptually exactly like the screw. You are taking the forward flow of the car and pumping it back into the reservoir, which is the battery.
So Archimedes would look at the energy graph on the dashboard, see that green bar showing energy going back into the pack, and just be floored.
He'd say, you have tricked nature. You are capturing the motion instead of throwing it away.
I feel like he'd totally be that guy on the EV forums arguing about the optimal regeneration settings for different topographies.
No, absolutely. He'd be obsessed with one pedal driving because every single time you have to use the friction brakes, you are admitting defeat. You are wasting energy.
And this obsession with efficiency brings up a whole new metric. The course points out he wouldn't care at all about miles per gallon. He'd care about watt-hours per kilometer.
Why per kilometer? It's the direct measure of how much energy force is required to move a specific mass over a specific distance.
So he wouldn't care about horsepower numbers either.
Not at all. Horsepower is just marketing to him. He would only want to know the actual work required to move the vehicle.
So picture him standing there on the showroom floor, completely ignoring the sales pitch about leather seats, and he's just doing mental calculus on the drag coefficient.
He's looking at the air resistance, he's looking at the curb weight. And based on the presentation sources, there is actually one specific car on the market today that he would buy.
All right, drum roll, please. The chariot of choice for the greatest ancient geek is...
The Lucid Air Pure. Specifically, the 2025 or 2026 model year.
Okay, that's interesting. Not a Tesla, not a Porsche Taycan. Why the Lucid?
It all comes down to the math. The source document calls the Lucid Air Pure the queen of energy optimization.
That is a pretty big title to live up to.
It earns it, though. We're talking about a vehicle that achieves something like 146 mpg, that's miles per gallon equivalent. In raw numbers, that means it gets about 5 miles of range for every single kilowatt hour of battery energy.
So for the listener who maybe just drives a standard gas sedan and doesn't know EV stats, is 5 miles per kilowatt hour actually that good?
It's staggering. Most electric SUVs on the road get maybe 2.5 or 3. A decent, highly efficient sedan might get 3.5 or 4.
Okay.
To hit 5 is like breaking the 4-minute mile in engineering. It implies a level of obsession that is frankly unnecessary just for getting to the grocery store, but it is absolutely essential for mathematical perfection.
So it's not just the Lucid has a massive battery stuffed into it. It's that it uses a normal amount of energy way better.
Exactly. The Lucid actually has a smaller, lighter battery than many of its competitors, but it goes further on a charge. That is leverage. That is doing more with less.
I see the connection now.
Archimedes would look at something like a Hummer EV, which has this gargantuan battery but is terribly inefficient, and he'd see it as brute force. It's ugly to him. He'd look at the Lucid and see intellectual superiority.
The notes also mention the motors themselves in the Lucid.
Yes, volumetric efficiency. The Lucid motors are incredibly compact. You could literally fit one inside a standard carry-on suitcase, but they produce massive power.
He would want to take the car apart immediately, wouldn't he?
Oh, right there on the showroom floor. He'd want to see the copper windings. He'd want to see how the engineers managed to eliminate all the superfluous weight.
I do have to ask about the Cybertruck, though. The notes mention it briefly. Visually, it looks like a geometry problem. It's all sharp angles and triangles. Wouldn't a mathematician love that?
He might appreciate the low-poly aesthetic at first glance. It looks like a platonic solid. But ultimately, the Cybertruck is made of stainless steel. It is incredibly heavy.
Right.
And it pushes the air out of its way with brute force. The Lucid, on the other hand, cuts through the air. Its drag coefficient is under 0.20. It's incredibly slippery.
And Archimedes did a lot of work with fluid dynamics.
Exactly. He's a fluid dynamics guy at heart. He'd always choose the aerodynamic scalpel over the heavy hammer.
So he is signing the papers, or I guess scrolling on the iPad, but the source material outlines a specific wish list.
Yes.
These are the demands he makes of the dealer before he agrees to drive off the lot.
This list is hilarious, but also deeply insightful about his character.
First up on the wish list, maximum efficiency display.
He would demand that the dashboard show him real-time consumption down to the decimal point. He'd probably want some kind of vector overlay on the windshield showing wind direction so he could adjust his driving line in real time.
That sounds exhausting, but very on brand. Second on the list, perfect transmission ratio.
So even though EVs essentially have one single gear, that reduction ratio is the modern fulcrum. He'd want to know exactly what it is. Is it 9-to-1, 10-to-1?
He wants to verify the math.
He wants to verify that the engineers found the absolute perfect balance point between low-end torque and top speed.
And the third one is definitely my favorite, open source code.
The ancient hacker mentality. You have to remember, Archimedes didn't just use tools. He invented the math behind the tools. He wrote a whole treatise called The Method of Mechanical Theorems.
So he wouldn't be satisfied with a black box that just magically works.
Never. He wants to root the car's operating system.
He wants to see the battery management system algorithms.
Oh, he'd demand it. He'd want to know exactly how the code decides to balance the voltage between individual battery cells. He'd look at the thermal management software and say, you know, if you just tweak this variable right here, you can reduce heat loss by 2%.
He'd be the guy voiding his warranty on day one because he rewrote the firmware in ancient Greek.
I can just hear the service center argument. Sir, why is your car's center screen displaying geometric proofs instead of the speedometer? And he just yells, because it is more efficient.
And finally, the last item on his wish list. Zero waste.
The absolute rejection of the superfluous. If a piece of exterior trim doesn't actively aid aerodynamics, he wants it ripped off. If the back seats are going to be empty most of the time, remove them to save weight. He wants the pure essence of the machine.
It creates such a vivid image. Archimedes sitting in his stripped-down Lucid Air, gliding completely silently out of the dealership, maybe throwing a peace sign to the confused salesman.
It really does.
And the source document gives us a reimagined quote for this exact moment. Instead of his famous lever quote, what does he say as he drives away?
With this machine, I have finally found the perfect fulcrum to move the world, without sweat and without horses.
It's a funny mental picture, but it really shifts your perspective. We usually think of EVs as this hyper-futuristic technology, like they strictly belong to the 21st century.
But what we're really saying is that the ideals behind them are ancient.
That is the big takeaway for me. The pursuit of the electric car isn't just about modern issues like climate change or saving money on gas.
It's the pursuit of mathematical perfection. It's about friction reduction. It's about energy conservation. These are the exact things Archimedes was screaming about 2,200 years ago.
We just finally caught up to him.
We finally have the materials, the lithium, the silicon, the copper, to actually build the machines he could only visualize by drawing in the sand.
It honestly makes you look at your own daily commute a little differently. You aren't just driving to work. You're participating in a giant physics equation.
And I think it raises a really profound question about how we define progress. We tend to think progress always means more features, bigger screens, more size, more horsepower.
Right.
But through Archimedes' eyes, true progress is actually less. Less waste, less heat, less noise, less aerodynamic drag.
The elegance of subtraction.
Precisely.
Yeah.
A perfect machine is one where you can't take anything else away without breaking it.
You know, we have covered a lot of ground today, all the way from the ancient siege of Syracuse to the drag coefficient of a luxury sedan. But before we wrap up the deep dive, I want to pivot for a second. I want to talk directly to the person listening to this right now.
The learner.
Yes, you. Because if you are still listening to two people geek out about gear ratios and ancient history, you share something very real with Archimedes. You have that spark.
You aren't satisfied with just pushing a button and having the car go. You want to know why it goes.
And that is really the whole mission of these deep dives. Whether we are dissecting ancient Roman texts or analyzing modern battery chemistry, it is all about connecting the dots.
It's about realizing that the guy drawing circles in the dust of Sicily and the engineer coding software in California today are actually having the exact same conversation across time.
They are both just trying to solve the problem of efficiency. So we want to say thank you.
Yes, truly.
Thank you for taking this specific journey with us today. We know your time is limited, and Archimedes certainly would have calculated its value down to the nanosecond.
He would have.
So we deeply appreciate you choosing to spend that time here, expanding your understanding of how the world works.
It really is a privilege to explore these ideas with you. Curiosity is the only thing that doesn't depreciate over time.
But before we go, we do want to leave you with one final provocation. Something to think about the next time you are sitting in traffic, just watching the brake lights turn on and off in front of you.
If Archimedes were alive today and he looked at our modern world, he wouldn't be impressed by our smartphones.
No.
He wouldn't care at all about our social media feeds. Those are just distractions to him. He would look at how we use energy.
He'd look at the waste.
He'd look at the lights left on in massive, empty office buildings all night. He'd look at the heat escaping from poorly insulated windows. He'd look at the kinetic energy lost into the atmosphere every single time you slam on your friction brakes at a red light.
So the question is, would he consider your daily life mathematically elegant? Or would he be frantically trying to optimize it?
And more importantly, would he let you merge in traffic?
Only if you used your momentum efficiently and signaled your vector in advance. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep optimizing.
See you in the next deep dive.